of inquiry which can on no account be neglected. Chapter 1. Laying Plans. 1. Sun Tzu said, "The art of war is of vital importance to the state." 2. It is a matter of life and death, a road either to safety or to ruin. Hence it is a subject of inquiry which can on no account be neglected. 3. The art of war, then, is governed by 5 constant factors, to be taken into account in one's deliberations, when seeking to determine the conditions obtaining in the field. 4. These are, 1. The moral law, 2. Heaven, 3. Earth, 4. The commander, 5. Method and discipline. 5. The moral law causes the people to be in complete accord with their ruler, so that they will follow him regardless of their lives, undismayed by any danger. 6. Heaven signifies night and day, cold and heat, times and seasons. 7. Earth comprises distances, great and small, danger and security, open ground and narrow passes, the chances of life and death. 8. The commander stands for the virtues of wisdom, sincerity, benevolence, courage and strictness. 9. By method and discipline are to be understood the marshalling of the army in its proper subdivisions, the graduations of rank among the officers, the maintenance of roads by which supplies may reach the army, and the control of military expenditure. 10. These 5 heads should be familiar to every general. He who knows them will be victorious, he who knows them not will fail. 11. Therefore, in your deliberations, when seeking to determine the military conditions, let them be made the basis of a comparison, in this wise. 12. 1. Which of the 2 sovereigns is imbued with the moral law? 2. Which of the 2 generals has most ability? 3. With whom lie the advantages derived from heaven and earth? 4. On which side is discipline most rigorously enforced? 5. Which army is stronger? 6. On which side are officers and men more highly trained? 7. In which army is there the greater constancy both in reward and punishment? 13. By means of these 7 considerations I can forecast victory or defeat. 14. The general that hearkens to my counsel and acts upon it, will conquer, let such a one be retained in command. The general that hearkens not to my counsel nor acts upon it, will suffer defeat, let such a one be dismissed. 15. While heeding the profit of my counsel, avail yourself also of any helpful circumstances over and beyond the ordinary rules. 16. According as circumstances are favorable, one should modify one's plans. 17. All warfare is based on deception. 18. Hence, when able to attack, we must seem unable; when using our forces, we must seem inactive; when we are near, we must make the enemy believe we are far away; when far away, we must make him believe we are near. 19. Hold out baits to entice the enemy, feign disorder, and crush him. 20. If he is secure at all points, be prepared for him. If he is in superior strength, evade him. 21. If your opponent is of choleric temper, seek to irritate him. Pretend to be weak, that he may grow arrogant. 22. If he is taking his ease, give him no rest. If his forces are united, separate them. 23. Attack him where he is unprepared, appear where you are not expected. 24. These military devices, leading to victory, must not be divulged beforehand. 25. Now the general who wins a battle makes many calculations in his temple ere the battle is fought. The general who loses a battle makes but few calculations beforehand. Thus do many calculations lead to victory, and few calculations to defeat, how much more no calculation at all. It is by attention to this point that I can foresee who is likely to win or lose. Chapter 2. Waging War. 26. Sun Tzu said, in the operations of war, where there are in the field 1,000 swift chariots, as many heavy chariots, and 100,000 mail-clad soldiers, with provisions enough to carry them 1,000 li, the expenditure at home and at the front, including entertainment of guests, small items such as glue and paint, and sums spent on chariots and armor, will reach the total of 1,000 ounces of silver per day. Such is the cost of raising an army of 100,000 men. 27. When you engage in actual fighting, if victory is long in coming, then men's weapons will grow dull and their ardor will be damped. If you lay siege to a town, you will exhaust your strength. 28. Again, if the campaign is protracted, the resources of the state will not be equal to the strain. 29. Now, when your weapons are dulled, your ardor damped, your strength exhausted and your treasure spent, other chieftains will spring up to take advantage of your extremity. Then no man, however wise, will be able to avert the consequences that must ensue. 30. Thus, though ye have heard of stupid haste in war, cleverness has never been seen associated with long delays. 31. There is no instance of a country having benefited from prolonged warfare. 32. It is only one who is thoroughly acquainted with the evils of war that can thoroughly understand the profitable way of carrying it on. 33. The skillful soldier does not raise a second levy, neither are his supply wagons loaded more than twice. 34. Bring war material with you from home, but forage on the enemy. Thus the army will have food enough for its needs. 35. Poverty of the state exchequer causes an army to be maintained by contributions from a distance. Contributing to maintain an army at a distance causes the people to be impoverished. 36. On the other hand, the proximity of an army causes prices to go up, and high prices cause the people's substance to be drained away. 37. When their substance is drained away, the peasantry will be afflicted by heavy exactions. 38. With this loss of substance and exhaustion of strength, the homes of the people will be stripped bare, and 3/10 of their income will be dissipated, while government expenses for broken chariots, worn-out horses, breastplates and helmets, bows and arrows, spears and shields, protective mantles, draft oxen and heavy wagons, will amount to 4/10 of its total revenue. 39. Hence a wise general makes a point of foraging on the enemy. 1 cartload of the enemy's provisions is equivalent to 20 of one's own, and likewise a single picul of his provender is equivalent to 20 from one's own store. 40. Now in order to kill the enemy, our men must be roused to anger, that there may be advantage from defeating the enemy, they must have their rewards. 41. Therefore in chariot fighting, when 10 or more chariots have been taken, those should be rewarded who took the first. Our own flags should be substituted for those of the enemy, and the chariots mingled and used in conjunction with ours. The captured soldiers should be kindly treated and kept. 42. This is called, using the conquered foe to augment one's own strength. 43. In war, then, let your great object be victory, not lengthy campaigns. 44. Thus it may be known that the leader of armies is the arbiter of the people's fate, the man on whom it depends whether the nation shall be in peace or in peril. Chapter 3. Attack by Stratagem. 45. Sun Tzu said, in the practical art of war, the best thing of all is to take the enemy's country whole and intact. To shatter and destroy it is not so good. So, too, it is better to capture an army entire than to destroy it, to capture a regiment, a detachment or a company entire than to destroy them. 46. Hence to fight and conquer in all your battles is not supreme excellence. Supreme excellence consists in breaking the enemy's resistance without fighting. 47. Thus the highest form of generalship is to balk the enemy's plans, the next best is to prevent the junction of the enemy's forces, the next in order is to attack the enemy's army in the field, and the worst policy of all is to besiege walled cities. 48. The rule is, not to besiege walled cities if it can possibly be avoided. The preparation of mantlets, movable shelters, and various implements of war, will take up 3 whole months, and the piling up of mounds over against the walls will take 3 months more. 49. The general, unable to control his irritation, will launch his men to the assault like swarming ants, with the result that 1/3 of his men are slain, while the town still remains untaken. Such are the disastrous effects of a siege. 50. Therefore the skillful leader subdues the enemy's troops without any fighting, he captures their cities without laying siege to them, He overthrows their kingdom without lengthy operations in the field. 51. With his forces intact he will dispute the mastery of the empire, and thus, without losing a man, his triumph will be complete. This is the method of attacking by stratagem. 52. It is the rule in war, if our forces are 10 to the enemy's 1, to surround him, if 5 to 1, to attack him, if twice as numerous, to divide our army into 2. 53. If equally matched, we can offer battle, if slightly inferior in numbers, we can avoid the enemy, if quite unequal in every way, we can flee from him. 54. Hence, though an obstinate fight may be made by a small force, in the end it must be captured by the larger force. 55. Now the general is the bulwark of the state. If the bulwark is complete at all points, the state will be strong. If the bulwark is defective, the state will be weak. 56. There are 3 ways in which a ruler can bring misfortune upon his army. 57. 1. By commanding the army to advance or to retreat, being ignorant of the fact that it cannot obey. This is called hobbling the army. 58. 2. By attempting to govern an army in the same way as he administers a kingdom, being ignorant of the conditions which obtain in an army. This causes restlessness in the soldiers' minds. 59. 3. By employing the officers of his army without discrimination, through ignorance of the military principle of adaptation to circumstances. This shakes the confidence of the soldiers. 60. But when the army is restless and distrustful, trouble is sure to come from the other feudal princes. This is simply bringing anarchy into the army, and flinging victory away. 61. Thus we may know that there are 5 essentials for victory. 1. He will win who knows when to fight and when not to fight. 2. He will win who knows how to handle both superior and inferior forces. 3. He will win whose army is animated by the same spirit throughout all its ranks. 4. He will win who, prepared himself, waits to take the enemy unprepared. 5. He will win who has military capacity and is not interfered with by the sovereign. Victory lies in the knowledge of these 5 points. 1. Hence the saying, if you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. If you know yourself but not the enemy, for every victory gained you will also suffer a defeat. If you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle. Chapter 4. Tactical Dispositions. 2. Sun Tzu said, the good fighters of old first put themselves beyond the possibility of defeat, and then waited for an opportunity of defeating the enemy. 3. To secure ourselves against defeat lies in our own hands, but the opportunity of defeating the enemy is provided by the enemy himself. 4. Thus the good fighter is able to secure himself against defeat, but cannot make certain of defeating the enemy. 5. Hence the saying, one may know how to conquer without being able to do it. 6. Security against defeat implies defensive tactics. Ability to defeat the enemy means taking the offensive. 7. Standing on the defensive indicates insufficient strength, attacking, a superabundance of strength. 8. The general who is skilled in defense hides in the most secret recesses of the earth. He who is skilled in attack flashes forth from the topmost heights of heaven. Thus on the one hand we have ability to protect ourselves, on the other, a victory that is complete. 9. To see victory only when it is within the ken of the common herd is not the acme of excellence. 10. Neither is it the acme of excellence if you fight and conquer and the whole empire says, well done. 11. To lift an autumn hair is no sign of great strength, to see the sun and moon is no sign of sharp sight, to hear the noise of thunder is no sign of a quick ear. 12. What the ancients called a clever fighter is one who not only wins, but excels in winning with ease. 13. Hence his victories bring him neither reputation for wisdom nor credit for courage. 14. He wins his battles by making no mistakes. Making no mistakes is what establishes the certainty of victory, for it means conquering an enemy that is already defeated. 15. Hence the skillful fighter puts himself into a position which makes defeat impossible, and does not miss the moment for defeating the enemy. 16. Thus it is that in war the victorious strategist only seeks battle after the victory has been won, whereas he who is destined to defeat first fights and afterwards looks for victory. 17. The consummate leader cultivates the moral law, and strictly adheres to method and discipline, thus it is in his power to control success. 18. In respect of military method, we have, firstly, measurement, secondly, estimation of quantity, thirdly, calculation, fourthly, balancing of chances, fifthly, victory. 19. Measurement owes its existence to earth, estimation of quantity to measurement, calculation to estimation of quantity, balancing of chances to calculation, and victory to balancing of chances. 20. A victorious army opposed to a routed one, is as a pound's weight placed in the scale against a single grain. 21. The onrush of a conquering force is like the bursting of pent-up waters into a chasm 1,000 fathoms deep. So much for tactical dispositions. Chapter 5. Energy. 22. Sun Tzu said, "The control of a large force is the same in principle as the control of a few men. It is merely a question of dividing up their numbers." 23. Fighting with a large army under your command is nowise different from fighting with a small one. It is merely a question of instituting signs and signals. 24. To ensure that your whole host may withstand the brunt of the enemy's attack and remain unshaken, this is effected by maneuvers direct and indirect. 25. That the impact of your army may be like a grindstone dashed against an egg, this is effected by the science of weak points and strong. 26. In all fighting, the direct method may be used for joining battle, but indirect methods will be needed in order to secure victory. 27. Indirect tactics, efficiently applied, are inexhaustible as heaven and earth, unending as the flow of rivers and streams, like the sun and moon, they end but to begin anew, like the four seasons, they pass away to return once more. 28. There are not more than 5 musical notes, yet the combinations of these 5 give rise to more melodies than can ever be heard. 29. There are not more than 5 primary colors, yet in combination they produce more hues than can ever been seen. 30. There are not more than 5 cardinal tastes, yet combinations of them yield more flavors than can ever be tasted. 31. In battle, there are not more than 2 methods of attack, the direct and the indirect, yet these 2 in combination give rise to an endless series of maneuvers. 32. The direct and the indirect lead on to each other in turn. It is like moving in a circle, you never come to an end. Who can exhaust the possibilities of their combination? 33. The onset of troops is like the rush of a torrent which will even roll stones along in its course. 34. The quality of decision is like the well-timed swoop of a falcon which enables it to strike and destroy its victim. 35. Therefore the good fighter will be terrible in his onset, and prompt in his decision. 36. Energy may be likened to the bending of a crossbow, decision, to the releasing of a trigger. 37. Amid the turmoil and tumult of battle, there may be seeming disorder and yet no real disorder at all. Amid confusion and chaos, your array may be without head or tail, yet it will be proof against defeat. 38. Simulated disorder postulates perfect discipline, simulated fear postulates courage, simulated weakness postulates strength. 39. Hiding order beneath the cloak of disorder is simply a question of subdivision. Concealing courage under a show of timidity presupposes a fund of latent energy. Masking strength with weakness is to be effected by tactical dispositions. 40. Thus one who is skillful at keeping the enemy on the move maintains deceitful appearances, according to which the enemy will act. He sacrifices something, that the enemy may snatch at it. 41. By holding out baits, he keeps him on the march, then with a body of picked men he lies in wait for him. 42. The clever combatant looks to the effect of combined energy, and does not require too much from individuals. Hence his ability to pick out the right men and to utilize combined energy. 43. When he utilizes combined energy, his fighting men become as it were like unto rolling logs or stones. For it is the nature of a log or stone to remain motionless on level ground, and to move when on a slope, if four-cornered, to come to a standstill, but if round-shaped, to go rolling down. 44. Thus the energy developed by good fighting men is as the momentum of a round stone rolled down a mountain thousands of feet in height. So much on the subject of energy. Chapter 6. Weak points and strong. 45. Sun Tzu said, "Whoever is first in the field and awaits the coming of the enemy, will be fresh for the fight. Whoever is second in the field and has to hasten to battle will arrive exhausted." 46. Therefore the clever combatant imposes his will on the enemy, but does not allow the enemy's will to be imposed on him. 47. By holding out advantages to him, he can cause the enemy to approach of his own accord, or, by inflicting damage, he can make it impossible for the enemy to draw near. 48. If the enemy is taking his ease, he can harass him. If well supplied with food, he can starve him out. If quietly encamped, he can force him to move. 49. Appear at points which the enemy must hasten to defend. March swiftly to places where you are not expected. 50. An army may march great distances without distress, if it marches through country where the enemy is not. 51. You can be sure of succeeding in your attacks if you only attack places which are undefended. You can ensure the safety of your defense if you only hold positions that cannot be attacked. 52. Hence that general is skillful in attack whose opponent does not know what to defend, and he is skillful in defense whose opponent does not know what to attack. 53. O divine art of subtlety and secrecy! Through you we learn to be invisible, through you inaudible, and hence we can hold the enemy's fate in our hands. 54. You may advance and be absolutely irresistible, if you make for the enemy's weak points. You may retire and be safe from pursuit if your movements are more rapid than those of the enemy. 55. If we wish to fight, the enemy can be forced to an engagement even though he be sheltered behind a high rampart and a deep ditch. All we need do is to attack some other place that he will be obliged to relieve. 56. If we do not wish to fight, we can prevent the enemy from engaging us even though the lines of our encampment be merely traced out on the ground. All we need do is to throw something odd and unaccountable in his way. 57. By discovering the enemy's dispositions and remaining invisible ourselves, we can keep our forces concentrated, while the enemy's must be divided. 58. We can form a single united body, while the enemy must split up into fractions. Hence there will be a whole pitted against separate parts of a whole, which means that we shall be many to the enemy's few. 59. And if we are able thus to attack an inferior force with a superior one, our opponents will be in dire straits. 60. The spot where we intend to fight must not be made known, for then the enemy will have to prepare against a possible attack at several different points, and his forces being thus distributed in many directions, the numbers we shall have to face at any given point will be proportionately few. 61. For should the enemy strengthen his van, he will weaken his rear. Should he strengthen his rear, he will weaken his van. Should he strengthen his left, he will weaken his right. Should he strengthen his right, he will weaken his left. If he sends reinforcements everywhere, he will everywhere be weak. 62. Numerical weakness comes from having to prepare against possible attacks. Numerical strength, from compelling our adversary to make these preparations against us. 63. Knowing the place and the time of the coming battle, we may concentrate from the greatest distances in order to fight. 64. But if neither time nor place be known, then the left wing will be impotent to succor the right equally impotent to succor the left, the van unable to relieve the rear, or the rear to support the van. How much more so if the furthest portions of the army are anything under 100 li apart, and even the nearest are separated by several li. 65. Though according to my estimate the soldiers of UA exceed our own in number, that shall advantage them nothing in the matter of victory. I say then that victory can be achieved. 66. Though the enemy be stronger in numbers, we may prevent him from fighting. Scheme so as to discover his plans and the likelihood of their success. 67. Rouse him, and learn the principle of his activity or inactivity. Force him to reveal himself, so as to find out his vulnerable spots. 68. Carefully compare the opposing army with your own, so that you may know where strength is superabundant and where it is deficient. 69. In making tactical dispositions, the highest pitch you can attain is to conceal them. Conceal your dispositions, and you will be safe from the prying of the subtlest spies, from the machinations of the wisest brains. 70. How victory may be produced for them out of the enemy's own tactics, that is what the multitude cannot comprehend. 71. All men can see the tactics whereby I conquer, but what none can see is the strategy out of which victory is evolved. 72. Do not repeat the tactics which have gained you one victory, but let your methods be regulated by the infinite variety of circumstances. 73. Military tactics are like unto water, for water in its natural course runs away from high places and hastens downwards. 74. So in war, the way is to avoid what is strong and to strike at what is weak. 75. Water shapes its course according to the nature of the ground over which it flows. The soldier works out his victory in relation to the foe whom he is facing. 76. Therefore, just as water retains no constant shape, so in warfare there are no constant conditions. 77. He who can modify his tactics in relation to his opponent and thereby succeed in winning, may be called a heaven-born captain. 78. The five elements are not always equally predominant. The four seasons make way for each other in turn. There are short days and long. The moon has its periods of waning and waxing. Chapter 7. Maneuver. One Sun Tzu said, in times of war, the general receives his orders from the sovereign. 2. After having assembled an army and concentrated his forces, he must merge and harmonize the different elements of it before pitching his camp. 3. After that comes tactical maneuvers, that which there is nothing more difficult. The difficulty of tactical maneuvers consists in transforming the devious into direct and the misfortune into gain. 4. Thus, to take a long and winding road, after enticing the enemy out of the way, and all those starting after him, inventing to achieve the objective before him, testifies to a knowledge of the deviation artifice. 5. Maneuvering with an army is advantageous, with an unruly multitude, the most dangerous. 6. If you place a fully equipped army in march in order to gain an advantage, chances are you are too late. On the other hand, detaching a flying column for this purpose involves the sacrifice of its baggage and provisions. 7. So, if you order your men to roll up their chamois coats, and to make forced marches without stopping day or night, covering twice the usual distance at a time, making 100 li to rest in advantage, the leaders of all your 3 divisions will fall into the hands of the enemy. 8. The strongest will be ahead, the jaded will fall behind, and in this regard only 1/10 of your army will reach its destination. 9. If you march 50 li to outsmart the enemy, you will lose the leader of your first division, and only half your force will reach the goal. 10. If you march 30 li with the same object, 2/3 of your army will arrive. 11. We can therefore consider that an army without its baggage train is lost. Without provisions, he is lost. Without a supply base, it is lost. 12. We cannot make covenants that we know the purposes of our neighbors. 13. We are not fit to lead a marching army if we do not know the face of the land, its mountains and its forests, its reefs and its precipices, its swamps and swamps. 14. We will not be able to account for the natural benefit if we do not use the local guides. 15. In war, practice concealment and you will succeed. Only move if there is a real advantage to be gained. 16. The concentration or division of your troops must be decided by the circumstances. 17. Let your speed be that of the wind, your compactness that of the forest. 18. In raiding and plundering, be like fire, in stillness like a mountain. 19. Let your plans be dark and impenetrable like the night, and when you move, fall like a thunderbolt. 20. When you plunder a field, let the spoil be divided among your men. When you capture a new territory, divide it into subdivisions for the benefit of the soldiers. 21. Think and think before you make a move. 22. He will overcome whoever has learned the trick of deviation. Such is the art of maneuver. 23. The Book of Army Management says, in the field of battle, The word does not go far enough, hence the institution of gongs and drums. Ordinary objects are not seen clearly enough either, hence the institution of banners and flags. 24 Gongs and drums, banners and flags, are means by which the ears and eyes of the host can be focused on a particular point. 25 The host thus forming a single united body, it is impossible either for the courage to advance alone, or for the cowards alone to retreat. It is the art of treating large masses of men. 26 So in night battles use the signal lights and drums a lot, and in daytime battles flags and banners as a means of influencing the ears and eyes of your army. 27 A whole army may be deprived of its spirit, a commander-in-chief may be deprived of his presence of mind. 28 Now the spirit of the soldier is keenest in the morning, at noon it began to drop, and in the evening his mind hangs over the return to camp. 29 A skillful general, therefore, avoids an army when his mind is sharp, but attacks when he is slow and inclined to return. It is the art of studying moods. 30 Disciplined and calm, waiting for the appearance of disorder and hubbub in the enemy, it is the art of maintaining self-control. 31 Being close to the goal while the enemy is still far from it, waiting at ease while the enemy struggles and struggling, being well fed while the enemy is hungry, it is the art of combining strength. 32 To refrain from intercepting an enemy whose banners are in perfect condition, to refrain from attacking an army drawn up with calm and confidence, it is the art of studying the circumstances. 33 It is a military axiom not to advance uphill against the enemy, nor to oppose him when he descends. 34 Do not pursue an enemy who simulates theft, do not attack the quick-tempered soldiers. 35 Do not swallow the bait offered by the enemy. Do not interfere with a returning army. 36 When you surround an army, leave a free exit. Don't press too hard on a desperate enemy. 37 Such is the art of war. Chapter 8. Variation of Tactics. 38 Sun Tzu said, in times of war, the general receives his orders from the sovereign, gathers his army and concentrates his forces. 39 In a difficult country, do not camp. In a land where highways cross, join your allies. Do not linger in dangerously isolated positions. In confined situations, you must resort to a ploy. In a desperate position, you must fight. 40 There are roads not to be followed, armies not to be attacked, towns not to be besieged, positions not to be contested, orders of the sovereign not to be obeyed. 41 The general who fully understands the advantages that accompany variation in tactics knows how to handle his troops. 42 The general who does not understand these, may well know the configuration of the country, but he will not be able to transform his knowledge into the practical account. 43 So the student of war who is unversed in the art of varying his plans, although he is aware of the 5 perks, will fail to get the most out of his men. 44 Therefore, in the plans of the wise leader, considerations of advantage and disadvantage will be mixed. 45 If our expectation of benefit be tempered in this way, we can be successful in accomplishing the essential part of our diets. 46 If, on the other hand, in the midst of difficulties we are always ready to seize an advantage, we can come out of misfortune. 47 Reduce hostile leaders by inflicting damage on them, get them into trouble and keep them constantly busy, attract specious and make them rush to a given point. 48 The art of war teaches us not to rely on the probability that the enemy will not come, but on our own willingness to receive him, not on the possibility of him not attacking, but rather on the fact that we have made our position unassailable. 49 There are 5 dangerous faults that can affect a general. 1. Carelessness, which leads to destruction. 2. Cowardice, which leads to capture. 3. A rush temper, which can be provoked by insults. 4. A delicacy of honor sensitive to shame. 5. Overcaring for his men, which exposes him to worry and trouble. 1. These are the 5 sins that afflict a general, ruinous to the conduct of war. 2. When an army is overthrown and killed its leader, the cause will surely be found among these 5 dangerous faults. Let them be a matter of meditation. Chapter 9. The Army on the March. One Sun Tzu said, "Now we come to the issue of encamping the army and observing signs of the enemy. Pass quickly over the mountains, and stay in the vicinity of the valleys. 2. Camp high up, facing the sun. Do not climb high to fight. So much for the mountain war. 3. After crossing a river, you should move away from it. 4. When an invading force crosses a river in its forward march, do not meet it halfway. It will be better to let half the army pass and then deliver your attack. 5. If you are eager to fight, you should not go and meet the invader near a river that he has to cross. 6. Moor your machine higher than the enemy and facing the sun. Do not move upstream to meet the enemy. So much for the river war. 7. When crossing salt marshes, your only concern should be to cross them quickly, without delay. 8. If you are forced to fight in a salt marsh, you should have water and grass near you, and your back to a clump of trees. So much for operations in the salt marshes. 9. In dry, flat land, take an easily accessible position with rising ground to your right and to the rear, so that danger is ahead and safety is behind. So much for campaigning in a flat country. 10. These are the 4 useful branches of military knowledge that enabled the Yellow Emperor to defeat 4 rulers. 11. All armies prefer high terrain to low areas and sunny to darkness. 12. If you are careful with your men and camp on hard ground, the army will be free from all kinds of diseases, and that will mean victory. 13. When you arrive on a hill or on a bank, occupy the sunny side, with the slope on your right rear. So you will act immediately for the benefit of your soldiers and use the natural advantages of the terrain. 14. When, as a result of heavy rains upstream of the country, a river that you want to cross is swollen and spotted with foam, you must wait for it to calm down. 15. The land in which there are sheer cliffs with torrents flowing in between, deep natural hollows, confined places, tangled thickets, quagmires and crevices, should be left at full speed and not approach. 16. While we keep away from such places, we must bring the enemy to approach them. As we face them, we must let the enemy have them in their rear. 17. If in the neighborhood of your camp there is a hilly country, ponds surrounded by water grasses, hollow pools filled with reeds or thick underbrush woods, they must be carefully routed and searched, because these are places where ambushes or insidious spies are likely to hide. 18. When the enemy is near and at rest, he relies on the natural strength of his position. 19. When he stands aside and tries to start a fight, he is eager for the other side to advance. 20. If his campsite is easily accessible, he holds out a bait. 21. Movement among the trees of a forest shows that the enemy is advancing. The appearance of several screens in the middle of thick grass means that the enemy wants to make us suspect. 22. The rise of the birds in their flight is a sign of an ambush. Frightened beasts indicate a sudden attack is coming. 23. When there is dust rising in a high pillar, it is a sign of the advancing chariots. When the dust is weak, but distributed over a large area, it announces the approach of the infantry. When it branches out in different directions, it shows that groups have been sent to collect firewood. A few clouds of dust coming and going mean the army is camping. Humble words and increased preparations are signs that the enemy is about to move forward. Violent language and forward-like behavior are signs that he will withdraw. 25. When the light tanks first come out and take up position on the wing, it is a sign that the enemy is training for battle. 26. Peace proposals not accompanied by an affidavit indicates a conspiracy. 27. When there are a lot of races and the soldiers fall in rank, it means that the critical moment has come. 28. When some are seen advancing and some retreating, it is a delusion. 29. When soldiers lean on their spears, they pass out from lack of food. 30. If those who are sent to draw water themselves begin by drinking, the army suffers from thirst. 31. If the enemy sees an advantage to be gained and makes no effort to secure it, the soldiers are exhausted. 32. If birds congregate anywhere, it is unoccupied. The nocturnal clamors testify to the nervousness. 33. If there is trouble in the camp, the general's authority is weak. If the banners and flags are moved, sedition is underway. If the officers are angry, it means the men are tired. 34 When an army feeds their horses with wheat and kills their cattle for food, and when the men do not hang their pots over the campfires, showing that they will not return to their tents, you may know be that they are determined. Fight to the death. 35 The sight of men whispering together in small knots or speaking in low voices indicates disaffection among the base. 36 Too frequent rewards mean that the enemy is at the end of his resources. Too many punishments betray a condition of extreme distress. 37 To begin with bluster, but then to fear the number of the enemy, shows a supreme lack of intelligence. 38 When envoys are sent with compliments in the mouth, it is a sign that the enemy wants a truce. 39 If the enemy troops march in anger and remain facing ours for a long time, without either fighting or taking join again, the situation is one that demands great vigilance and circumspection. 40 If our troops are not more numerous than the enemy, that is more than enough. It only means that no direct attack can be made. What we can do is simply concentrate all of our available force, keep a close watch on the enemy, and get reinforcements. 41 He who does not exercise forethought but laughs at his adversaries is sure to be captured by them. 42 If soldiers are punished before they become attached to you, they will not be submissive, and, unless submitted, they will be virtually useless. If, when the soldiers have become attached to you, the punishments are not applied, they will still be unnecessary. 43 Therefore, soldiers must be treated with humanity in the first place, but kept under control by means of iron discipline. It's a certain road to victory. 44 If the soldier's orders are usually followed in training, the army will be well disciplined, otherwise, his discipline will be bad. 45 If one shows general confidence in her men, but still insists her orders being obeyed, the gain will be mutual. Chapter 10 Ground. 46 Sun Tzu said, we can distinguish 6 types of terrain, namely, 1. Accessible ground, 2. Tangled terrain, 3. Temporize the field, 4. Narrow passages, 5. Steep heights, 6. Positions at great distance from the enemy. 47 Land which can be walked freely on both sides is called accessible. 48 Regarding terrain of this nature, be in front of the enemy by occupying high and sunny places, and carefully guard your supply line. Then you can fight with advantage. 49 Land that can be abandoned but difficult to reoccupy is called entanglement. 50 From such a position, if the enemy is not prepared, you can go out and defeat him. But if the enemy is ready for your coming and you fail to defeat them, return being impossible, disaster will ensue. 51 When the position is such that neither side will win by making the first movement, it is called ground temporization. 52 In such a position, even if the enemy offers us an attractive bait, it will be advisable not to stir before, but rather to retreat, thus attracting the enemy in turn. Then, when part of his army is out, we can deliver our attack with advantage. 53 As for the narrow passes, if you can occupy them first, let them be heavily stocked and wait for the enemy to come. 54 If the enemy prevents you from occupying a pass, do not pursue them if the pass is fully garrisoned, only if it is weakly garrisoned. 55 As for the steep heights, if you are ahead with your opponent, you should occupy the high and sunny places, and wait there for him to come. 56 If the enemy has occupied them before you, do not follow him, but retreat and try to attract him. 57 If you are located at a great distance from the enemy and the strength of the two armies is equal, it is not easy to provoke a battle, and the combat will be to your disadvantage. 58 These 6 are the earth principles. The general who has reached a position of manager must be careful to study them. 59 Now, an army is exposed to 6 calamities, not of natural causes, but of faults for which the general is responsible. They are, 1. Theft, 2. Insubordination, 3. Collapse, 4. Ruin, 5. Disorganization, 6. Rout. 60 All other conditions being equal, if a force is launched against another 10 times its size, the result will be theft of the first. 61 When ordinary soldiers are too strong and their officers too weak, insubordination results. When officers are too strong and ordinary soldiers too weak, the result is collapse. 62. When senior officers are angry and rebellious, and when they encounter the enemy fight on their own account out of resentment, before the commander-in-chief can say whether he is able to fight or not, the result is ruined. 63. When the general is weak and without authority, when his orders are not clear and distinct, when there are no fixed tasks assigned to officers and men, and ranks are formed in a carelessly haphazard manner, the result is utter disorganization. 64. When a general, unable to estimate the strength of the enemy, allows a lower force to engage a larger force, or launches a weak detachment against a powerful one and neglects to place selected soldiers in the front rank, the result must be a rout. 65. These are 6 ways of courting defeat, which should be carefully noted by the general who has reached a position of responsibility. 66. The country's natural formation is a soldier's best ally, but a power of estimation of the adversary, of control of the forces of victory, and of astute calculation of difficulties, dangers and distances, constitutes the test of a great general. 67. Whoever knows these things and puts his knowledge into practice by fighting, will win his battles. He who does not know them, nor practice them, will certainly be defeated. 68. If the fight is sure to lead to victory, then you must fight, even if the sovereign forbids it. If the fight does not result in victory, then you should not fight even at the request of the ruler. 69. The general who advances without coveting fame and retreats without fear of disgrace, whose only thought is to protect his country and to do good service to his sovereign, is the jewel of the kingdom. 70. Consider your soldiers as your children, and they will follow you into the deepest valleys. Regard them as your own beloved sons, and they will remain by your side until death. 71. However, if you are indulgent, but unable to make your authority felt, generous, but unable to fulfill your commands, and incapable, moreover, of stifling disorder, then your soldiers must be assimilated to spoiled children. They are unnecessary for practical purposes. 72. If we know that our men are under attack, but do not know that the enemy is unchallengeable, we are only halfway to victory. 73. If we know the enemy is open to attack, but do not know that our men are not in a state of crisis, we are only halfway to victory. 74. If we know that the enemy is open to attack, and also know that our men are in a condition to attack, but ignore that the nature of the terrain makes combat impracticable, we are still only halfway towards victory. 75. Thus, the experienced soldier, once on the move, is never confused. Once he breaks camp he is never lost. 76. Hence the saying, if you know the enemy and you know yourself, your victory will not be in doubt. If you know heaven and earth, you can achieve your victory. Chapter 11. The 9 Situations. 77. Sun Tzu said, the art of war recognizes 9 varieties of soil. 1. Dispersive terrain. 2. Easy terrain. 3. Contentious reason. 4. Open ground. 5. Terrain of intersecting highways. 6. Serious reason. 7. Difficult terrain. 8. Hemmed floor. 9. Desperate ground. 78. When a leader fights on his own territory, it is dispersive terrain. 79. When he has entered hostile territory, but without great distance, he is easy ground. 80. The ground the possession of which is of great benefit to both sides is a contentious ground. 81. The ground in which each side has freedom of movement is open ground. 82. The land that forms the key to 3 contiguous states, so that whoever occupies it first has most of the empire under its control, is a land of intersecting highways. 83. When an army has entered the heart of a hostile country, leaving behind a number of fortified towns, it is serious ground. 84. Mountain forests, steep escarpments, marshes and fens, a whole country difficult to cross, it is difficult terrain. 85. Land which is reached by narrow gorges, and from which we can only retreat by winding paths, so that a small number of enemies would suffice to crush a large body of our men, this one is surrounded by earth. 86. A ground on which we can only be saved from destruction by fighting without delay is desperate ground. 87. In dispersive terrain, therefore, do not fight. On easy ground, don't stop. On contentious ground, do not attack. 88 In open terrain, do not try to block the enemy's path. On the terrain of intersecting highways, join hands with your allies. 89 On serious ground, gather and plunder. In difficult terrain, continue walking regularly. 90 On hemmed terrain, resort to the stratagem. In desperate terrain, fight. 91 Those who were called the old skillful leaders knew how to dig a wedge between the front and rear of the enemy, to prevent cooperation between its large and small divisions, to prevent the good troops from saving the bad. The officers rally their men. 92 When the men of the enemy were dispersed, they prevented them from concentrating. Even when their forces were united, they managed to keep them in disorder. 93 When it was to their advantage, they took a step forward, otherwise, they stopped again. 94 If I am asked how to deal with a large army of enemies in order and about to march towards the attack, I should say, start by grabbing something that holds your adversary, then it will be subject to your will. 95 Speed is the very essence of war. Take advantage of the incapacity of the enemy, force your way through unexpected roads and attack unguarded places. 96 Here are the principles that an invading force must observe. The more you enter a country, the greater the solidarity of your troops, and so the defenders will not prevail against you. 97 Make forays into fertile lands to supply your army with food. 98 Carefully study the welfare of your men and don't overload them. Focus your energy and build up your strength. Keep your army constantly on the move and make unfathomable plans. 99 Throw your soldiers into positions where there is no escape, and they will prefer death to flight. If they face death, there is nothing they cannot accomplish. The officers and the men will put forward their greatest strength. 100 Soldiers who are in a desperate situation lose the feeling of fear. If there is no refuge, they will stand firm. If they are in a hostile country, they will show a stubborn front. If there is no help for this, they will fight hard. 101 So without waiting to be gathered, the soldiers will be constantly on the alert. Without waiting for someone to ask them, they will do your will. Without restrictions, they will be faithful. Without giving orders, we can trust them. 102 Prohibit the taking of omens and remove superstitious doubts. Then, until death itself comes, no calamity is to be feared. 103 If our soldiers are not overloaded with money, it is not because they have a loathing for wealth. If their life is not too long, it is not because they are not very inclined to longevity. 104 The day they are ordered to fight, your soldiers may cry, those who sit sewing their clothes, and those who lie down let tears fall down their cheeks. But let them once be sidelined, and they'll show the courage of a Chu or a Ku. 105 The skillful tactician can be compared to the Shui January. Now the Shui Jan is a serpent that is found in the Chong Mountains. Hit its head, and you will be attacked by its tail. Knock on its tail, and you will be attacked by its head. Hit in the middle, and you will be attacked by the head and the tail at the same time. 106 When asked if an army can be made to imitate Shui Jan, I should answer, yes. For the men of Wu and the men of Yue are enemies, yet, if they cross a river in the same boat and get caught in a storm, they will come to the aid of each other just as the left hand helps the right. 107 So it's not enough to rely on the attachment of horses and the burying of chariot wheels in the ground. 108 The principle on which to lead an army is to establish a standard of courage that all must achieve. 109 How to make the most of the strong and the weak. This is a question that involves the proper use of the land. 110 So the skillful general leads his army as if leading one man, willy-nilly, by the hand. 111 It is a general's business to be silent and thus maintain secrecy, righteous and just, and thus maintain order. 112 He must be able to mystify his officers and his men with false reports and appearances, and thus keep them in total ignorance. 113 By modifying his arrangements and changing his plans, he keeps the enemy without precise knowledge. By moving his camp and taking roundabout routes, he prevents the enemy from anticipating his goal. 114 At the critical moment, the leader of an army behaves like one who has climbed from a height and pushes the ladder back behind him. He transports his men deep into hostile territory before showing his hand. 115 He burns his boats and breaks his pots, like a shepherd leading a flock of sheep, he leads his men here and there, and nothing knows where he is going. 116 Gathering his guests together and endangering him, this can be called the general's business. 117 The different measures adapted to the 9 varieties of soil, the desirability of aggressive or defensive tactics, and the fundamental laws of human nature, these are things that certainly need to be studied. 118 In invading hostile territory, the general principle is that penetrating deeply brings cohesion. To penetrate but a short path means dispersal. 119 When you leave your own country and take your army through neighboring territory, you find yourself in critical terrain. When there are means of communication on all 4 sides, the ground is that of intersecting highways. 120 When you get deep into a country, it's serious ground. When you penetrate a little, it's easy terrain. 121 When you have enemy strongholds in the back and narrow passes in front, it's surrounded terrain. When there is no refuge at all, it is desperate ground. 122 Therefore, in dispersive terrain, I would inspire my men with unity of purpose. On easy ground, I would see that there is a close bond between all parts of my army. 123 On contentious ground, I would hurry up. 124 In the ground, I would keep a watchful eye on my tusks. On the terrain of intersecting highways, I would consolidate my alliances. 125 For serious reasons, I would try to ensure a continuous flow of supply. On difficult terrain, I would continue to advance on the road. 126 On surrounded land, I would block any retreat path. On desperate ground, I would proclaim to my soldiers the desperation to save their lives. 127 For it is the soldier's disposition to offer stubborn resistance when surrounded, to fight fiercely when he cannot help it, and to obey promptly when he is in danger. 128 We cannot enter into an alliance with the neighboring princes until we know their designs. We are not fit to lead a marching army if we do not know the face of the land, its mountains and forests, reefs and precipices, swamps and swamps. We will not be able to account for the natural benefits unless we hire local guides. 129 Ignoring any of the following 4 or 5 principles is not suitable for a warrior prince. 130 When a warrior prince attacks a powerful state, his condition shows itself by preventing the concentration of enemy forces. He intimidates his opponents and their allies are prevented from joining him. 131 Therefore, it does not strive to ally with everyone, nor does it promote the power of other states. He carries out his own secret designs, keeping his antagonists in awe. Thus, he is able to capture their cities and overthrow their kingdoms. 132 Granting rewards regardless of the rule, issuing orders regardless of prior arrangements, and you will be able to manage an entire army as if you were dealing with only one man. 133 Confront your soldiers with the act itself, never let them know your design. When the prospect is bright, bring it before their eyes, but don't tell them when the going is bad. 134 Put your army in mortal danger, and it will survive. Put him in dire straits and he'll get out of it safely. 135 For it is precisely when a force has fallen in danger that is able to strike a blow for victory. 136 Success in war is achieved by carefully adapting to the objectives of the enemy. 137 By constantly clinging to the enemy's flank, we will be able to kill the commander-in-chief in the long run. 138 That's called the ability to do something out of sheer trickery. 139 The day you take your command, block the border crossing, destroy the official accounts and stop the passage of all emissaries. 140 Be severe in the boardroom, to get the situation under control. 141 If the enemy leaves a door open, you must rush. 142 Warn your opponent by seizing what is important to him, and subtly try to time his arrival on the field. 143 Walk the path defined by the rule and accommodate the enemy until you can fight a decisive battle. 144 First, therefore, show the timidity of a young girl, until the enemy gives you an opening, then imitate the speed of a running hare, and it will be too late for the enemy to oppose you. Chapter 12 The fire attack. 145 Sun Tzu said, there are 5 ways to attack with fire. The first is to burn the soldiers in their camp, the second is to burn down the stores, the third is to burn the baggage trains, the fourth is to burn arsenals and magazines, the fifth is to launch down fire on the enemy. 146 To carry out a fire attack, we must have the means. The material for starting the fire should always be kept close at hand. 147 There is a suitable season for making attacks with fire, and special days for starting a conflagration. 148 The good season is when the weather is very dry. Special days are those when the moon is in the constellations of the sieve, wall, wing or crossbar, for these 4 are all days of rising wind. 149 When attacking with fire, one must be prepared to face 5 possible developments. 150 1. When fire breaks out inside the enemy camp, immediately respond with an attack from outside. 151 2. If there is a fire outbreak, but the enemy soldiers remain silent, bide your time and do not attack. 152 3. When the strength of the flames has reached its maximum, pursue it with an attack, if possible, otherwise, stay where you are. 153 4. If it is possible to assault fire from the outside, do not wait for it to burst inside, but launch your attack at a favorable time. 154 5. When you light a fire, be upwind. Don't attack downwind. 155 A wind that comes up in the day lasts a long time, but a night breeze falls soon. 156 In each army the 5 fire-related developments must be known, the movements of the stars calculated, and a watch must be kept for the appropriate days. 157 Therefore, those who use fire as an aid in attack show intelligence, those who use the water to aid in the attack gain strength. 158 By means of water, an enemy can be intercepted, but not stripped of all his possessions. 159 Unhappy is the fate of one who tries to win his battles and succeed in his attacks without cultivating an entrepreneurial spirit, because the result is a waste of time and a general stagnation. 160 Hence the saying, the enlightened leader presents his plans well ahead, the good general cultivates his resources. 161 Only move if you see an advantage, do not use your troops unless there is something to be gained, only fight if position is critical. 162 No leader should put troops on the ground just to satisfy his own spleen, no general should fight a battle simply by pike. 163 If it's to your advantage, take a step forward, otherwise, stay where you are. 164 Anger can turn to joy over time, annoyance can succeed content. 165 But a kingdom that's been destroyed once can never be reborn again, and the dead can never be brought back to life. 166 Therefore the enlightened leader is attentive and the good general prudent. This is the way to keep a country at peace and an army intact. Chapter 13. The use of spies. 167 Sun Tzu said, raising an army of 100,000 men and traveling over them great distances results in heavy losses for the population and a drain on state resources. The daily expenditure will amount to 1,000 ounces of silver. There will be commotion at home and abroad, and men will fall exhausted on the highways. Up to 700,000 families will be hampered in their work. 168 Hostile armies can clash for years, fighting for the victory decided in a single day. However, to remain in the dark about the condition of the enemy simply because one resents the expenditure of 100 ounces of silver in honors and emoluments, is the height of inhumanity. 169 He who acts thus is not a leader of men, no help present to his sovereign, no master of victory. 170 So what enables the wise sovereign and the good general to strike and to conquer, and to accomplish things beyond the reach of ordinary men, is foreknowledge. 171 Now, that foreknowledge cannot be obtained from spirits, it cannot be obtained inductively by experience, nor by any deductive calculation. 172 Knowledge of the disposition of the enemy can only be obtained from other men. 173 Hence the use of spies, of which there are 5 classes, 1. Local spies, 2. Inside spies, 3. Converted spies. 4. Convicted spies. 5. Surviving spies. 174. When these 5 types of espionage are all at work, none can uncover the secret system. This is called the divine manipulation of the threads. It is the sovereign's most precious faculty. 175. Having local spies means having recourse to the services of the inhabitants of a neighborhood. 176. Having internal spies, using enemy officials. 177. Having converted spies, seizing the enemy's spies and using them for our own ends. 178. Having condemned spies, doing certain things openly for the purpose of deception, and allowing our own spies to know them and report them to the enemy. 179. The surviving spies, finally, are those who report news from the enemy camp. 180. Therefore, it is that none in the military have more intimate relationships to maintain than with spies. No one should be more generously rewarded. In no other company should a greater secrecy be kept. 181. Spies cannot be usefully employed without a certain intuitive sagacity. 182. They cannot be properly managed without goodwill and candor. 183. Without a subtle ingenuity of mind, one cannot be sure of the veracity of their reports. 184. Be subtle. Be subtle, and use your spies for every type of business. 185. If a secret news is leaked by a spy before the time is right, he must be put to death with the man to whom the secret was told. 186. Whether it is crushing an army, storming a town, or assassinating an individual, you should always start by researching the names of the attendants, aides-de-camp, gatekeepers and sentries. The controls. Our spies must be tasked with checking them. 187. The enemy spies who come to spy on us must be sought out, tempted by bribes, taken away and comfortably housed. Thus, they will become converted spies and available for our service. 188. It is through the information provided by the converted spy that we are able to acquire and employ local and internal spies. 189. It is through his information, once again, that we can get the doomed spy to bring false news to the enemy. 190. Finally, it is through his information that the surviving spy can be used on specific occasions. 191. The end and goal of espionage in all its 5 varieties is knowledge of the enemy, and this knowledge can only be learned, in the first place, from the converted spy. It is therefore essential that the converted spy be treated with the utmost liberality. 192. In the past, the rise of the Yin dynasty was due to Ai Qi, who had served under the Shah. Likewise, the rise of the Chu dynasty was due to Liu Ye, who had served under the Yin. 193. Therefore, only the enlightened ruler and the wise general will use the highest intelligence of the army for espionage, and thereby they will achieve great results. Spies are the most important element in warfare, because it is on them that the ability of an army to move depends. 1. This edition, due to technical limitations, uses simplified numbering for chapters 1 and 2. Correctly, paragraph 5 of chapter 1 should be marked 5, 6, with the following numbers in sequence thereafter, and paragraph 13 of chapter 2 should be marked 13, 14, with numbers that also follow in order for the remainder of the chapter.